Welcome back, coaches. This is the Football Coaching Podcast. I am Daniel Chamberlain, co-host, here with Joe Daniel, as always.
What's up, Coach?
Well, it's a beautiful week. We have been flooded in, not really flooded in, but we've had more rain than we've ever had in a 30-day stretch or some crap. So It's very wet here. I'm sure y'all are getting a bunch of it too, right?
We had a couple days, but like today was great. Yesterday afternoon, I guess yesterday afternoon it cleared up, and then today's been great.
Gotcha.
It came in Sunday, so Sunday, Monday we had a lot of rain, but
yeah, it's that time of year. So tornadoes, all the good stuff. It's been fun.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of that. We get a little bit. We get a little bit of all the natural disasters. It's nice. We had an earthquake yesterday.
Oh.
I guess it was in Fredericksburg. It wasn't here. I didn't feel it, and I didn't even know it happened. And then I was at the gym. One of the girls at the gym was talking about, did you guys feel the earthquake? And I was like, man, I didn't feel an earthquake. It's like, it was at 1:08 p.m. today or something like that. It was like 2.8 or something like that. And I was like, I I didn't really feel anything. Because every once in a while we have one I can feel it. I can, feel a little shake. But I was like, my dog went nuts for no reason whatsoever this afternoon. She was like, was it around 1:08 p.m.? And I was like, probably.
Probably was. Your dog doesn't like earthquakes, apparently.
Not an earthquake guy. Not an earthquake guy.
Again, to our power minute here. Here's the topic for this evening. We're going to be talking about kids not buying into your system. And I've seen this firsthand. I know a lot of, I talk about antiquated offenses, right? There's some kids that won't buy into the old school offenses. They're not really antiquated, I guess, but lots of reasons out there kids wouldn't buy in. Big three topics tonight are going to be building team buy-in, the SCS system, which is Simplify, Celebrate, Sharpen. Oh, look at that. Eidetic memory. I barely remembered. Yeah. And then we're going to talk about staying one day ahead of your guys. So should be a wonderful episode. Let's talk about level up, Joe.
So I wanted to. So one of the hardest things that I do is keeping up with our JDFB system, our onboarding and everything. So when coaches sign up with JDFB, we don't just get access to some videos and good luck, see you later. You fill out a bit of information for me about your team and your program, and we call it the roadmap to victory. I send a personalized video. I send some things in the mail. I set up a one-on-one strategy call with you because we want to make sure that basically you give us that information, then we send you the roadmap, which is like the three things I think are going to make the biggest impact right now. Right. And we call it our quick start because I want you to get something out of it immediately. And then we set up the next step is and the whole time you have access to everything. But we want to make sure that, you're looking at the right stuff and don't find out too late. And then we set up a one-on-one call where we kind of, lay that path out. And then we also have the game film analysis as well. So, and game film analysis isn't too bad during the season because we know that we're going to have a bunch of film on Monday morning. And,
right.
But it's in the off season. And we have a coach in Germany and a coach in England. And so their seasons are going on now. And so they're sending film, and it's kind of just, it kind of creeps up on me. Like, or if, our platinum coaches can send film anytime. So like if they sign up to be a platinum coach today, you can send film, send one film a week from last season, and we can start looking at it now. So you kind of know what to look for. You can't immediately correct it the way that you could in season, but you know what we're looking for, right. And you get a much better idea. And I think more coaches should probably take advantage of that. Not that I need more work, but more coaches should take more advantage of it. But getting all of that, fulfilled, it gets lost in the shuffle. So I was looking for a tool to notify me, basically to set these things up as like an appointment. Like, I have a meeting with you, but obviously you're not going to be there. It's going to be me filming a video or me. The one-on-one strategy session calls are a scheduled meeting, and that's not a problem. It's on the schedule. I know when it is. But if we have new subscribers and I don't know about it, new clients coming in, I don't know about, new people sending in game film analysis, and I didn't see the email come in. I a while back I set it up so it'll automate an email, but I try to stay out of my email inbox. So so that doesn't work for me anymore. So I was trying to find a tool that would basically take it when somebody. This seems really simple, and it's not, unfortunately. There might be something that makes it simple, but I wanted a tool where somebody fills out a survey, for example, fills out a Google form, which is what our right now our kickoff registration is in. They fill out there. Actually, I'm sorry, it's in SurveyMonkey. They fill that out, and it automates something that slaps them onto a next available space on my Google Calendar. So I just create an appointment. So if this is going to take me 15 minutes, or this is going to take me 30 minutes, or whatever, depending on the thing, put it on the calendar in this time. So I'll say, 11 to 1, Monday, Wednesday, Friday is reserved for this. And if there's stuff there, I'm going to do it. If not, then don't. And there's nothing that really made it easy. So what I ended up doing was I could Zapier that to where it would connect, automate where the survey was filled out, and it would create a task in Asana, which we use for project planning. And then Asana could communicate with a software called Reclaim.ai. And it kind of works, except for you couldn't automate it. So I still had to go into Asana when that task was created, and which I can do human automation with that. I can have one of my assistants do that for me. And so that would work. What I found was the Reclaim, and you talked about the software that you were using, which was Motion.
Yes.
Which I'm also going to check out. I'm liking Reclaim. It's not a big software. It's funny because this is what ChatGPT recommended. ChatGPT frustrated me to no end on this process, by the way. And you've run into this too, where every once in a while ChatGPT just kind of craps the bed.
Doesn't know.
And it was like, it's like, here's what I want to do. And it's like, cool, get this, and it'll do it. And so I start going down that path, right? And I'll have ChatGPT, this next step. And I'll be like, that's not there. Oh, you're right. That's not there. That's not going to work. Okay, let's do this. And we did this over and over and over again. And eventually ChatGPT was like, yeah, we can't do this. ChatGPT's worst flaw is its inability to just say, like, I don't know. Or I don't think we can do that. And so, but at the end of the day, I got something that kind of works. But what it does is it's designed to protect your time. So you assign, and again, I got to get more into it. What I did was I assigned a block of time for fulfillment. And then I just know, okay, I'm going to go into instead of having them on the schedule as individual things, I just know during this block of time that is a protected block of time on my calendar. And then it will fill in other stuff. So I'll say, okay, I need 4 hours this week for this project. And it'll say, okay, cool. And you can say, split it up, but don't split it up, split it up in increments of 1 hour. And so if it can fit 3 hours in a row, it will. If it can only fit 2, it'll fit 2, and it'll put 1 hour in the next open spot it's got. And it goes by priorities. And so it's been good. I think I need to spend more time in it to find out how to really use it to its maximum capability. But this is my first week using it. It's on my third day using it, and I've definitely had a productive 3 days.
Yeah.
Like always, what you find out very quickly is everything takes longer than you expected it to. Every once in a while, there's something that takes less time than I expected it to, or I scheduled it correctly and said, hey, it's going to take an hour, and I get it done in 45 minutes, which is what should happen. Right. But it's got some other things. If you put a location on something, it automatically puts in 30 minutes of travel time front and back, which is helping me with like going to the gym. So I've got the gym blocked off for 4:00 every day. I never make it to the gym at 4:00, and it's just like, yeah, you go to the gym at 4:30. Travel time is at 4. Because when you say this time frame is reserved for the weight room, it goes, it treats that as this is how much time you have, including the 30 minutes of travel time. So
Right.
real quick, the reality sets in that if I block off 4 to 7, I've got 2 hours to work out. Now it doesn't take me 30 minutes to get there, but if I work till 4 and then change,
Changed. Yep.
get in the car, grab my water bottle, I forgot my, whatever, my thumb tape, something like that. I got to go back in and get it. And by the time I get there, it's almost always 4:30, which is when coaching starts, which is when my coach session starts. So, the open coaching sessions there, group, it's like group coaching. So it's been pretty good.
It's I really like you said, I've been using Motion and I've really enjoyed it. I still don't use it to its fullest capacity.
That's what I see with this. I know
To
it
be
can do
honest,
more. Yeah.
there's so because it's project management, it's team
Mhm.
management, it's personnel and time, blah 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 blah. Like I just need it for me to like exactly what you said. People I'm consulting with, I get them on there. The podcasts are blocked off. In the beginning, I was trying to make everything its own little calendar. It was just very weird. I had to kind of learn the ins and outs, and now it's it's pretty good. I know my wife even checks it.
Mhm.
Built the new computer. I just sent my other one to the office for her to use, and everything's still logged in. So she just gets on there and she's like, "Oh, you're picking up the boys on this day, or you got to take the boys to school." So she can go in and create things. Um, it makes it really nice to not accidentally double book,
Mhm.
even weeks out. I have to put my own travel time, but I can I can customize it. So if
Yeah.
I'm driving 3 hours away, like it will, make sure I leave on time. So that's been really neat. But yeah, dude, I love it. The Motion, I'm sure Reclaim's the same. I'm sure they're almost exactly the same, if not the exact same stuff.
Yeah, I think just looking at Reclaim, it seems like Reclaim does more, which is sometimes good and sometimes not. Sometimes you just want. We kind of ran into this with football tools, right? The huddle and um, all of these different quick cuts and everything. Like they all had to have a playbook, and they had to have, it's like I just need video,
Right.
and it's like just be the best at video. I would much rather have the best at video and I know a lot of people like huddle playbook. I don't have much to say about huddle right now, but a lot of people like the huddle playbook and all that sort of stuff. But if you've ever experienced other playbook apps, the only advantage of huddle is your team's already on there. But just for drawing up playbooks, like I hate it. Like drawing it up for my own, drawing it up to share with my coaches, I hate it. Like give me like Playmaker Pro does nothing else but draw up a playbook. It can't do crap. It looks like Microsoft Paint from Windows 3.1,
Right.
but and it is. I mean, it was made in 1994 and it looks the same as it always did. That's because in 1994 they figured out how to draw up plays, and it doesn't have to change.
Right.
So it just depends. I'm going to definitely take a look at it though.
My level up, I almost could do two, and I feel like I do two every week because I'm just busy. But the big one is the good one. We for Christmas this year, kind of a very late, a month ago, my children got a Christmas gift from my little brother, and so I guess at some point I had bought him a set of tires when he was in need, and I don't even remember it. I always just try to take care of friends and family and such. So I've done that for multiple people, but and to repay me for that, he gifted us a little Yamaha 50 four-wheeler. It's like
Nice.
it's a Raptor racing four-wheeler, just a 50. So it's you can govern it to 7 miles an hour or ungovern it all the way up to a whopping 15 miles an hour. And so we finally went and picked it up just about a month ago. And then this past Saturday, he texted me and was like, we knew his daughter was racing quads, and she had moved from that 50 up to a 90, which is why it was available. And he was like, "Hey, we have a race tomorrow," which was Sunday. He was like, "If you guys want to go," and I looked it up, and it's like 4 hours from the house, and I was like, "Well, I guess we're going." If he's gonna gift us the ride, we better go use it. Well, to be honest, Beckett has rode the bike a little, when he was about a year younger, he wrecked it twice in one day and gave up. I was like, nope, never touching that. And so he had bounced back and he was getting a little bit more confidence on it. In fact, just 2 weeks ago or so, he asked me that day if he'd go ride, and I said sure. And he was like, "Can we make it in go fast mode?" And I was like, "No, you need to ride it more." And as I was walking, I was like, "Man, he's showing confidence. I really need to." Kind of what you said. We're going to talk about the SCS. I better celebrate this confidence, right? Because I want to keep it around. And I was like, you know what? We can. I will put it in fast mode. And so I did, and he wrecked it within 5 minutes. And then was golden on it. So I was like, okay, dude, we're good. 1 month after getting back on it, first time in a year, he's on a racetrack. And so we drove 4 hours on his word that he would actually race. We went out and did 2 practice laps, which was all they gave us. And I followed him. We have a little dirt bike, a little Honda trail bike, but I followed him and he was very, very slow. Every time he came to a rut or a turn, he was like off the throttle. And I was like, oh man. And it's 1 bike wide. So I know like in a race, he's just going to have a traffic jam. Whatever, dude, we're going to do it. We talked. So between practice and the race was about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. And I just talked to him like, dude, the rule of the day is if you see a straightaway, you got to throttle it out, man. You got to go. Even if there's trees, little bumps aren't going to hurt you. Like, throttle it out. He's like, okay. So he lined up for the race. He won the whole shot, which means he got out of the gate first, made the first corner. So he won the whole shot award and then proceeded to get 3rd place. And one kid beat him because his bike was just faster. Like that thing was getting. The other kid beat him because Beckett saw a kid in need on the side of the road of the trail and pulled over to get off his quad to help the kid get his bike unstuck.
That's what cars teaches us. Yeah.
And as he stopped and was getting off, they have what they call sweepers. So just guys that ride behind the little kids and make sure they don't, get stuck and cause a pileup. That guy pulled up and helped him. So Beckett got to go, but his competition passed him in that corner, which I was like, dude, that's cool. That's a good reason to get past. So he came in 3rd, got a plaque.
Nice.
And it was awesome. So we've been super excited. Sam and I are looking at sharing a racing quad. So we've got to figure out how we're going to afford that. Now we need trailers and,
oh boy,
or a trailer to carry everything on. And it's funny how you just find your thing sometimes. And she's like, I've been wanting to do this for literally since I was a kid. Beckett's good at it. It's the first thing that we've seen him be this excited about in a long, long time. He's gotten to that point where he's like bored at school and he can do all of his work in 5 minutes. So he just refuses to do it. Like he's just like me. He's just bored. So we're glad he found his thing. It was a ton of fun. We're excited about building confidence with this and discipline. Made him come home and wash his bike before he put it away. He's got to put his gear on every time. It's a really neat tool, just finding a way to teach him important things for later in life. So
nice.
We're yoked about it.
Good stuff.
Last week's topic, we talked about not having enough players to win and all the things that you can do to help build your roster. Go back and listen to a great episode. Everyone can pull something from that, I feel like, because it's not just the basic stuff. Go back and give it a listen. Next week, we're going to talk about our special teams are not special. It'll be a good one. I'm looking forward to that one just because I've been in a couple special team systems where we try to like mimic the offense and pull sneaky stuff, or we're shield punt type team where everything is very NFL like or pro like. It's just lots of different ways. So I'm excited to see how we go about attacking that one. A quick reminder that if you have a friend in the coaching world and they're not listening to the football coaching podcast, you need to send them an episode. This episode, last episode, any of the, preferably the last 100 episodes, because if you go back too far, I was terrible. And I don't want them hearing that.
Don't go back to number 1 for sure.
Yeah.
Number 1 was me and Nate, and I was terrible.
Yeah. I can't even go back and listen to the first like 40. So it's good. Let's pay the bills, man.
All right. The difference between a championship defense and a defense struggling every Friday night is not just talent. It's not luck. It's your system. Without a system, you scramble every week trying to fix problems on the fly. Your players get confused. Your assistants aren't on the same page, and your defense is constantly playing from its heels. I've worked with over 10,000 football coaches, and most of them were making the same mistakes. They're overcomplicating football. They're running a stack of plays with no real reason behind them, or they're just calling front stunts, blitzes, coverages from the seat of your pants. Once we get those coaches putting a real defensive system in place, everything changes. Players play faster, coaches have more confidence, and you start winning more football games. And that's why I put together my latest free guide, What You Need to Know to Build the Ultimate Defensive Football Coaching System. Inside that guide, you're going to get a blueprint for building a defensive system that works so you can simplify your playbook, get your players to buy in, and take control of the game. You can download the free copy right now, almost made it, at JoeDanielFootball.com/system to take the guesswork out of coaching, build your ultimate defensive system, and turn your football program around this season. Go to JoeDanielFootball.com/system.
I want to talk to you for a moment about athletic speed and movement over at athleticspeedmovement.com. Bottom line up front, the bluff, as we like to say in the military, is that you have so much potential that you have not reached with the speed and athleticism of your kids. We're talking agility, all things football related. Too long we've been stuck in a system of send kids off the track to get fast. And too long we've been thinking that's making our team faster for the football season when it is not. Yes, we all need a good X receiver that can run the 100-yard sprint and catch a fly ball and go to the house. That's great. But that's one kid doing one job with almost none of the time. So it's time to buy into the thing that's going to make every kid on your team faster. From the center after he snaps and's got to get over on a 3-tech because that's his pass pro guy for whatever reason. Whether it's a running back that's got to get out in a route or make a cut on power. Doesn't matter which one of your kids needs to pick up speed. This is the way to get them there. We're going to talk about speed, agility, athleticism, all the things you need, and it is football specific, very sport specific speed. AthleticSpeedMovement.com. Jump over there, get Del Basquet's. Man, it's a program from what year did he's? It's so long ago, the 70s, right? We're talking Seattle,
47 years in, but yeah,
40
the program he's constantly changing,
for sure.
evolving it, but yeah.
The science has been proven all of these years. The program continues to evolve and work on the fundamentals. It's a 12-week program, 2 times a week. We're talking 20 minutes a day in your off season right now. AthleticSpeedMovement.com. Jump over there and sign up today. If you're in the car and you're listening to the podcast, holler at your phone. Hey, Siri, remind me when I get where I'm going to jump on AthleticSpeedMovement.com. Sweet. Let's jump into part 1 here, Joe. Building team buy-ins. We talk about our teams not bought into the system. Are we talking X's and O's system, offensive, defensive system? Are we talking about the program?
I mean, it's everything. You know, whatever you're doing. It was really obvious to me coming into a program that was we've talked a lot about it, but the program that I've been at for the last 4 years was a loser. They had won 4 games in the previous 3 years. They had not had a winning season since 2005. This was 2021 when I came in, when with the head coach that took a job in front of mine, and I came in as offensive coordinator. They had never won. The program had never won a playoff game in school history, going back to the playoffs started in the 70s in Virginia. So we had, I mean, it was not only one of the losingest, but also one of the smallest 3A programs in the state of Virginia. There had also been 3 head coaches before in the previous, I think, I want to say 3 years, 3 or 4 years. There had been a ton of turnover. And what I knew day one when the new head coach stood up in front of those guys and everything that he said. And I don't remember if I was there when he was introduced because there's, you have to go through the whole process and wait for the school board and all that sort of stuff. So I don't know if I was allowed to be in there at day one. But whenever I was there, I remember just sitting there and hearing him talk about all of the things. Now, I've coached them for 20 years. Nothing he said was wrong. But I just remember sitting there in my head and thinking, they've heard this. They've heard this from 4 different guys now. They don't buy it. And nothing, and he knew it. He knew it. Nothing he could stand up there and say was going to matter. We say it, we say it because we're drilling these ideas and we're laying seeds and all that sort of stuff. But the reality is, they're not sitting there nodding along going, yeah, this is the thing right here. They're sitting there going, I heard this before. That guy was gone in 6 months too. Like that's the mentality, right? There's no reason to buy into this because number one, we can't win here. Number two, he's going to be gone before I graduate. And if I'm a senior, he's the 4th coach I've seen since I started here. And so that was where I started to really think about buy-in more. Not that that was the first time that I thought about, like, because of it being so obvious, like this is, and really the place that we were at before wasn't that different. Now I didn't come in until his 2nd year at the place before, but it wasn't that different because that school, is kind of a launching pad for coaches, right? It's a 2A in the middle of nowhere with great athletes who just have to be, they usually don't have a lot of linemen, but steering them in the right direction. A lot of coaches came in there, went 6-4, put a winning season on their resume, went and got another job, right? Nobody apparently bothered to look and see that 6-4 was a dime a dozen at that school, right? Anybody could go 6-4. The hard thing was, we won the year that I was head coach, we won 10 games. I was not using it as a launching pad because I left coaching and I'll never probably be a head coach again. But we won 10 games. We're only the 2nd program to win 10 games, but it was the same deal, right? He ain't going to be here long. He's just here to win a few games. It ain't about establishing that, I don't, because you still talk to your high school coach. Like,
yeah,
there was something established there. My high school coach, the one that I played for as a junior and a senior, I wasn't around long enough, but he was on staff, and so it was just kind of a continuation of Coach Lord, who's been on this podcast years ago, and Coach Lord was the name, he lived up to it. I mean, you knew it was a presence. It was his program, and it had been his program for a number of years, and everybody knew it. There was something established there. And until you actually start to establish that, it's very hard to get players to buy in from words that you say. Words that you say will not create buy-in. By the same token, we don't create buy-in with tricks and gimmicks. And this is a lot of the stuff that we talked about last week. It's not a one-day thing. It's not a speech. It's not a change. It's not so I'll go back to what you said at the beginning, your offense, right? They don't want to buy in because of your offense. No. If you had this thing, if you had the buy-in, if you had it built, sure, there might be 1 or 2 kids, and they're not coming up with this idea. It's coming from their parents. They're going, oh, they're going to run a wing tee. I know what a wing tee is because I once played football, and you shouldn't want to play in a wing tee because all they do is run the ball. And that, we know this is dumb. Okay. The reality, they're hearing that from someone else, but the reality is all of those coaches who go, kids don't want to play in this system. You don't have the buy-in. You might lose 1 or 2, but you don't have the buy-in. And guess what? When you change the system, you might get them to pay attention for a little bit, but you won't get any more buy-in. Now, what coaches mistake is a lot of times they have a system that's not working and they dive in with something new and really get to learn it, and the staff is excited about it, and that excitement comes back, and then they have some success with it, and that will start to create some buy-in. But what created the buy-in was not the new system. What created the buy-in was the success and the belief that this is working and this is going in the right direction. And so what we came up with was the SCS system. And as you mentioned, the SCS system is to simplify it, to celebrate it, and then to sharpen it. And so it may not sound like anything revolutionary, but I've coached 20 plus years and I've worked with a lot of coaches. I've worked with over 10,000 coaches directly. It's not common. And I know everybody sits there and goes, oh, yeah, we all do that. No, you don't. Some of you do. Especially if you've been listening to the podcast for a long time. maybe. But I find most coaches don't, and they're just missing the boat on it. We had a coach on the chalkboard forum the other day who was like, I am 100% bought into JDFB. We are full in, full on. Here's what we're doing. And then laid out too much stuff. And then said, and some of the kids get it, but a lot of them don't. What's a trick that I can use to get them to get it? And it's like, that's not the deal. This is a person who knows it, right? Who listens, who pays attention, who watches everything, who pays a subscription price. And we still get lost from, we go astray of this and we start doing our thing. And I do too, often to my frustration. But what we do with the buy-in, I think one of the things that I've had success with is getting kids to buy in at a position where kids don't want to buy in. Not many kids are excited to be linemen. And I've managed to get kids who aren't excited to be linemen to buy into what we're doing. This doesn't change the fact that every offseason, every summer, they're like, Coach, I'm going to move to tight end. I'm going to lose 20 pounds and move to tight end. And I'm like, if you lost 20 pounds, you'd just be fat, but okay. Like but that doesn't change the fact, but I can get them to buy in to the system for the year and being offensive lineman and being part of the unit and putting the work in. And I got to get them to buy in again next year when they don't all five get to go move to tight end. So, that's the thing. But it starts with simplifying. So you have to, I've been really big on this idea of we always are pulling them. We talk about it. We say these words. I feel like, and we said them because our kids, especially in the early couple of years at this last school, they weren't used to winning, and they were ready to the mentality of the program had for so long been, we are who we are, and here we go again. And it felt like we were dragging this team 3 years in a row, dragging this team into the playoffs. Like they're trying to get out of it. And we're like, you are going to the playoffs. We are going to win a playoff game. And we finally got there. But like, you have that feeling of we're just trying to drag you to where we're at and where we want you to be. And a lot of times what we're doing is we're trying to drag them to this ideal place that they're not ready to go to. And that's why it's such a pain to do, because we don't have the buy-in. We're dragging them. Like we're trying to lasso them and, pull them out there, and it's like calf roping, and I don't know how to do that. And, we're just trying to get them there. And
at least yours are like calves. I'm herding cats down here, dude.
Yeah. Well, cats are faster. So we're trying to pull them to this place where we want them to be, and it's hard. It's hard work. And it's a better strategy to go, for lack of a better word, down to, it's, that's what it feels like. Get down to where they're at. And that's what we talk about Coach Simple. Get down to where they're at. Stop worrying. Stop complaining about my kids don't have any football IQ. My kids lack focus. My kids don't want to work hard. My kids don't want this. My kids don't want to do that. My kids don't know how to win. Da, 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 da. Where are they right now? And let's get it down to where they are at. And so when you talk about, is this X's and O's, or is this, no, this is program wide, right? Because our kids are, that's their academics. That's their behavior in class. Let's get down to where they are at. Like you talk about behavior in class. You're not going to take a kid who has been a problem for the last 8 years of school and suddenly just tell him, hey, you're a ninth grader now. These grades count. This behavior counts, and college coaches are looking at you, and he's going to fix it. He'll fix it for how long? 2 weeks tops, right? And so instead, that's pulling him. And then what you're going to do, you're going to go give him some other thing. You're going to keep pulling him back. Instead, you try to get him down, and teachers don't want this, right? Teachers want the quick fix. But you've got to get in there and go where this kid is at. And, it goes back to getting 1% better and all of these things. Get where they are at and drive them forward. Push them forward. Bring them forward. And it's not and bring them with you, right? Bring them with you rather than dragging them to you. It's a lot easier to go down there and put an arm around them and bring them with you than it is to stand there at the top of the building with a rope tied around them, trying to drag them. So we simplify everything that we're doing. And there's a lot that includes a lot of things, but we simplify and get to where they're at first. And if you take that in, an X's and O's context, we teach them something simple that we need them. We teach them, and this goes back to, you've got to look at what you're doing, and we do this for you at JDFB. If you're a JDFB coach, we'll break it down and say, like, this is the thing. Like, if I can only teach him one thing, this is what I'm going to teach him, right? And so we've figured out what matters most. And a lot of coaches are like, no, we can't not teach how to. We can't get rid of the run around the hoop and strip sack fumble recovery with our defensive ends. That's a necessary skill. It's like, no, it's not. No, I promise you, if that's the only skill that he has, and he has no other defensive line skill than to run around a hoop and strip sack, he's almost never going to get a chance to use that skill, if he ever does, because he doesn't know how to get off a block. He doesn't know how to hit a rip move. He doesn't know how to key read it down block and squeeze it and spill it and all that sort of stuff. And so we've isolated, like, look, your defensive end, get him lined up here, get the hand down here, and teach him how to spill a down block. If that's the only thing he can do, if he can't rush the quarterback very well, if he can't, as long as he'll stay out, then we just tell him, stay outside. Don't rush. Don't worry about it. Just stay outside, like on pass rush. We'll deal with that later. We'll work on pass rush moves later. Coaches are like, no, we've got to work on strip sack fumbles, and we've got to work on his club punch and rip and his swim move and his spin move. Jesus, Lord, don't let him spin. Okay.
Nothing worse than a high school lineman
just spinning in a circle.
Especially
the offensive lineman. If the offensive lineman start, he just takes his hands off. Smart, he just takes his hands off of him, and looks at him and waits.
Thank you.
And then drives him into the ground. That's the easiest thing to handle. So simplify it. We find the thing, the most important thing, where they're at right now. Because if you're coaching Division I football, all of this concept still works, but your guy probably knows how to squeeze a down block. Hopefully, maybe not. Depends on if he came from Texas or Florida. There's a big difference there. So that was what I was always told in college, was that, Florida and Texas had the best football players, but the ones in Texas are developed and the ones in Florida aren't. And so the ones in Florida are going to get better. So that was why we had a bunch of Florida kids. The ones in Florida are going to get better. The ones from Texas are already good. So if you want them to start as freshmen, Texas. If you want to develop them in a JUCO, Florida. I don't know how true that is. I didn't coach that many kids from Texas. I coached a lot of them from Florida, and they're good. But it was raw. There was a lot of teaching. So we get that done, right? We get that simplified, and we teach that skill. And then you go to work on catch them doing it right? Because it's not automatic. A lot of coaches run the drill one time, and you go over and you do the thing in team, and they don't do the drill, and you go, what are we doing? We just worked on this for 8 minutes. You've been doing it wrong your entire life, but for 8 minutes we worked on it, and it just went right away.
I can't believe you can't just do it right.
You wait to catch them doing it right. Now, you still coach them when they do it wrong. Hey, remember that thing we worked on? This is what you need to do. But you catch them doing it right. Sometimes you catch them doing it right on accident, and it's not perfectly right, but the result shows this will work. And so we catch them doing it right, and we celebrate it. I think, we do this in practice. You see a guy doing it right. You go, yes, you did. That's it. Perfect. That's it. That's it right there. That's what we worked on in that drill. And you just did it right there. And look how good it worked. Celebrate it. It's better if you catch them doing it right on film, and because then you can show it to them and to everyone else who plays their position. Here's the thing I've been trying to get you guys to do. He did it right. He sees that he actually did it and it worked, because he doesn't always feel it and all that sort of stuff. He may have been doing it on total accident. The other kids get that confirmation of, okay, if I do this right, I'm going to be good too. Coach is going to be happy with me and excited about that too. I might get to play more, whatever their motivation is. And so you catch them on film, and it's even better if that film is not game day film, because game day film, the result and the outcome is too late. Like, it's great to coach off of that film, but you're coaching off of that film for next week. You want to get film in practice,
Right.
so that you can celebrate that film that you get in practice during the week, so that you solidify those habits and those things that you want to happen in the game. So and then we sharpen it. So now I've gotten to get you to do the most simple thing. I've gotten you, I've seen you, I've taught you the most simple thing, the most important thing for you right now, where you're at right now. And again, where you're at right now, we talk simplify. It's not just, oh, go run a 4-4 cover 3, or simple won't work for my team. If simple won't work for your team must be at a different level. And simple doesn't mean the same thing for you, right? It's just, I have coaches who are running complex 4-3 split field quarters coverages with the full zone blitz package and multiple fronts, because in their area and where they're at, they are already a winning and successful football program that plays high level passing attacks, and they need these things, and their kids are ready for it. I have a lot of coaches who aren't there yet, right? So it takes time. So now we simplify, and then we sharpen. So we talk about that bandwidth of confidence. Of we figure out where they're at, and they're in this bandwidth of confidence, like they can do these things. If I start messing around with stuff below the bandwidth, they're like bored, right? And this is the problem with everyday drills. If I start messing around above the bandwidth of confidence, they're like lost, and they're feeling like a failure because they can't do this yet. But I stay in this bandwidth of confidence where I'm teaching and I'm talking and I'm working with them. And then what I do is, when I start seeing them bumping up against the top of that bandwidth, then I can start to sharpen, which means add a little more, strengthen a little bit, get a little better at it. So that's when we start to get into the detail, and hey, you did it this, you did that, but let's get, for example, we'll see that same defensive end we talk about. You just need to squeeze a down block. What they will start doing is they will start squeezing down blocks, and it will work sometimes. But what they're doing is essentially a visual key. Instead of striking the tackle and riding him down to spill this, they are stepping across, the tackle goes down, and then you can see them physically turning and bending, and they're playing it as a visual key instead of a physical key. It works for the fact that they will spill the kick out block. The problem is the tackle got a free release to the linebacker. And so now the next step is get those hands on that tackle and do the same thing with a physical key read. And then we start to stress that, and we start to refine little things, and we continue to progress this. We continue to progress the drills. We continue to progress the key reads. We continue to progress and build and build and build. And that's why I don't like everyday drills, because everyday drills might start out. If you, a lot of coaches, not as many coaches do this, as for a time it was really, really popular. You have like your 5 everyday drills. And I did this too. You have your 5 everyday drills. Well, and these are the drills that we do. This is our 5 everyday drills. Well, the problem is you might start on day 1, and some of the kids that's in their bandwidth of confidence, but some of the kids it's above their bandwidth of confidence. And so those kids are starting out completely frustrated and lost because they didn't build the foundation. And then I've got this other group they're doing fine, but then as the kids start to progress and I continue doing the same drill every day, for some of the kids who were lost before, now this becomes their bandwidth of confidence, and they start to feel more comfortable with it. But what's happened to the ones who started out feeling pretty good about that drill? Now they're bored because they do the same thing every day. Used to, when I was in college and I had a young defensive line coach when I was playing in college. In my freshman year, I played defensive end because the coaches didn't care enough about me to move me to a position. And I just stayed there. I played defensive line in high school. I played defensive end in college. We had a young defensive line coach, first year, second year coach. And I used to joke about it because, for one thing, when everybody was dying in Virginia in the heat, I was fine because it's not Georgia.
It's not Georgia.
It's not Georgia. And we did ropes, chutes, and sleds every single day. Okay. Toys, right? Ropes, chutes, and sleds. There's no ropes, there's no chutes, and there's no sleds on a football field. It was like a circuit every day. Okay. And that was what we did. it was like the first 10 or 15 minutes, and it was just repetitive. And I've been in other places, and I did it too, where we did the bag drills, running over bags. Well, eventually running over bags is not very hard. Running through ladders is not very hard. And you're like, well, I taught him something. You taught him how to run over bags. Right, let's move on. First of all, just don't. So that's the SCS system, is then we sharpen. And I don't like doing anything that doesn't translate to the football field, because I have so much work to be done in the detail aspect of things,
Right.
where I've got to get that big, here's the 2, 3, 4 big things that you must do, and then, go from there.
I like the idea of this SCS system. I can tell you, I know a lot of coaches probably struggle, because we come into this job, I'm really kind of thinking like new head coaches and trying to take over a program, and especially if you're trying to turn something around or change something, it's not already successful. But what blueprint are we trying to use? We're trying to use the blueprint of Bill Blankenship, who runs a state championship program,
Sure.
right? So what did I do while I'm there? I write down the way he runs his meetings. I write down what helmet stickers or jersey patches, or how does he. Bill Blankenship doesn't let kids have single digit numbers. They have to earn them, and it has to be voted on by the whole team, or they can't wear a single digit number. You can't take Bill Blankenship's program and go run it at a school that hasn't won a game in 4 years.
For two reasons. For one, you're at a school that hasn't won a game in 4 years. Two, you're not Bill Blankenship.
Correct.
He has a certain buy-in just by walking in the room, right?
So we walk in, though, with a blueprint, with a notebook, with a game plan, a playbook, how we're going to hold kids accountable, how we're going to get grades up, how we're going to get the white pants really, really white after a mud game. We have a playbook for everything. We've built this program. I mean, I'm kind of an example of this, right? I've traveled school to school to school, learning from whoever I can find out there that's a great coach, and go put it into a big tool bag and try at some point to, probably, because this is where new head coaches get their start, trying to turn a job around.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to be smart with that, because the kids aren't there. So I can't go in and pull out every tool in my toolbox and fix every problem. You got to prioritize and, like you said, Joe, simplify. And I think that that's something we forget about. And it isn't just in X's and O's, but that's a great place to look at it.
Yeah.
I spent 2 years with the Bixby offensive freshman OC, learning Bixby's offensive system. It becomes simple to run, but it is quite complex. There's a lot of moving parts. Not everybody you can't just step into every team and run that system. It doesn't matter that they scored 48 points a game for 10 years. That you're not going to do that.
Yep.
I think we were at 47 this year at Bristow, if I'm not mistaken. So the streak almost lives on, but those were kids that were good football players already, right? You're not going to go change a program with this exact offense. So, but it's very hard for coaches to spend all this time, spend their whole career up until the point they get their first job, or a job, turning a program around, or trying to change things. And I'm not allowed, because of lack of experience and lack of program depth and IQ, football IQ, I'm not allowed to use all my tools that I watched be very successful, right? Kind of goes back to RPO being run power often. Like, you just got to get real simple before you can build up, and you got to celebrate those little things. So, but I do like the program, and it's something I personally have to go back and look at, is to ensure that I'm not overdoing things wherever I'm at.
And it's exactly what you said. You you want to come in with your plan and execute your plan. That's all you centered. And what you have to figure out is, you can still execute your plan to an extent, but you have to figure out, you have to know your plan well enough to adjust your plan.
Right.
You're not going to be able to come in, because if you come in with, I'll just give you an example. When I went to Amelia's rural and we joked that the kids were like just feral. Like these kids, and I had been at Prince George, which is a really nice school, and we won the sportsmanship award year after year after year. Colonial Heights won it when we didn't win it. So the two schools that I've been at that were the perennial losers, were really good at sportsmanship. Amelia ain't got a lot of sportsmanship trophies. They got a lot of other trophies. And so the difference was, if I had gone in there, or Justin, who was the head coach when I first got there, and he did, and it made life real hard for both of us the first couple of years because we didn't understand this. I understand this now, and I understood it by the time that I left. But at first, we didn't understand this, and we thought football had to be done a certain way of discipline and everything. And that's not the life. These are kids who, when I say that they have good parents who care about them, but it's a different world where they were just allowed to go run free, right? They don't have helicopter parents who are checking on their grades. Most of their parents, not like they didn't care about their grades, but it was like, people don't leave. They stay, they go back, they stay home, and they stay in the same area and they do the same jobs. And, that was the kind of mentality, I think. And not understanding that and trying to get that school and those kids to adhere to a standard of discipline from a school that was 20% military, and those were the bad kids. Like, this is like, this is a different world. And so we had to learn I say very quickly, but it took a couple of years. We had to learn that every school is not the same, and you cannot hold. And it's the same thing when we were, just another example, when we were at Prince George, our head coach at Prince George had a rule that if you missed a practice, or if you missed a practice without contacting a coach, you were cut. And he cut our starting running back in camp one year. It was his rule, and he stuck to it. Now, that, I don't know if I can say that it worked, because it took a long time to turn that program around. I didn't have enough. I was there for 6 years with him, and I was like, I'm out. This ain't happening. I'm going to go see if we can do this somewhere else.
Right.
And eventually they did get it, for a couple of good years. When we, where we've been at the last 2 years with 27 kids, and, one of them, again, just the kids are completely different, and like, they're not used to having to check in, right? And it's just, and then another group that somewhat different, but just the fact that they had never had a lot of structure in the programs because the coach is constantly leaving. Nobody ever got anything established.
Right.
And if we had tried to do that at either one of those schools, we wouldn't have had any players. And I know some coaches go, well, then we would have just cut them all. Like, that's you. That's not. Both of those programs Amelia didn't have to be turned around, but we raised the level there. And we did start my first year with 4 and 6, but we were really young. That's the athleticism of that school. 4 and 6 was freshmen and sophomores. One junior. And but we did raise the level of that program. And eventually started to get that the way that we want, the discipline and the things that we wanted, but also we kind of met them where they were at. And then in the other program, we turned the program around pretty quickly. And I think it's because we, again, understood the situation. You have to pay attention to what you're going into. If you go in with just a set of rules and go, this is how we're going to do this, it's going to be really tough.
Yeah. Yep. The discipline, I think, is a big one that no two programs are ever in the same place. You just can't. You can't. And I know.
You have to train the administration. You have to train the parents. You have to train the teachers of this is how we're going to do things, and train. And again, it's the same as coaching your players. When I'm training the parents, I have to meet the parents where they're at. I don't go to the parents day one and say, if you don't do this, your kid will be cut off. Your kid will be kicked off the team. Because if the coach before and the coach for the last 3 years just let them come to practice whenever, I got to go meet them at that expectation. That expectation is I show up to practice when I want to. Well, I got to go meet them at show up practice when I want to and say, look, year one, this is how it's going to work. Year two, this is how it's going to work. Year three, this is how it's going to work. Year four, you guys have been in the system for 4 years, seniors, and everybody here, you don't show up. It's this rule, this rule, this rule, this rule. Like, right. It's a process. You got to meet the parents where they're at. You got to go meet the teachers where they're at. Maybe the teachers before always sent them to the office, and I've got to train the teachers. Let me handle it, because if he gets suspended, I can't play him.
So the last section here is stay one day ahead, and I will let you fill me in what you're doing there.
Yeah, so we'll speed up on these last two sections. I think we had 2 sections left, but I'll kind of...
we covered 1 and 2 already.
Well, we didn't cover player creed. We didn't know, because this is section 2. Section 2 is one day ahead. Section 3 is player creed.
I screwed it up. There you go. I missed player's creed.
Yep. So the stay one day ahead thing goes back to I kind of took this from when I was a math teacher for a short 2 years. When I was a history teacher, I had a history degree. I went and I took calculus in college, but I didn't pay attention. And then I took statistics and I took something else, and I got good grades in them, but I wasn't paying attention. I'm okay. I'm good at math, but I'm not a passionate mather. I used to study a lot of history, but I never studied math for fun. So when I was teaching math, and they gave me 3 preps my first year, so I taught computer math, I taught algebra 1, and I had algebra 1 part 1, so that meant that or algebra 1 part 2, so that meant that I had the sophomores who took 2 years to take algebra 1, so they were sophomores in algebra 1, in the second half of algebra 1. And then I taught something. I taught statistics. Okay, and so statistics was a higher level class.
Yeah.
And then the next year they gave me geometry. At least I only had 1 prep, but it was geometry, so it was a whole new prep. And in all of those cases, I was staying one day ahead. And so for statistics, for example, I'm one day ahead. I took in college. I understood the stuff. I took AP statistics in high school. I took college statistics. So I've heard all this stuff, but I don't remember it. Right? I'm 10 years out of school, or something like that, close to it. And so I'm studying something like that, close to it. And so going in and I'm teaching it. I learned statistics before. I am teaching them from the perspective of somebody who just learned it last night. And even though I can't tell them I just learned this last night, I realized that my teaching was better because I tended to, in history, think, I taught you that who doesn't know that? Like, I taught you that yesterday, last week.
Right.
And this is the simplest thing. But when I was teaching statistics, to an extent, geometry and algebra, but it's a little bit easier, for me. But the higher level statistics, it was like, and I made it a pretty hard class, apparently. I had a lot of kids come back to me and were like, they were appreciative. I had multiple kids come back to me and be like, I took statistics my freshman year of college, or they came back their freshman year and were like, it's so easy. We did all this stuff in the first week, and they're in the 6th or third 6 weeks or whatever. But I was able to teach it better because I was literally one day ahead of him. And I think that we approach teaching football sometimes as, I'm such an expert and I spend so much time studying this stuff and I know so much football, and I'm showing you how much football I know. Teach it as if you just learned it. Teach it as if you're sharing something you found out last night. Teach it as if this is this cool thing. And when somebody doesn't understand, don't get frustrated. Think about when you first... I was a stupid football player. You do not understand. I didn't know. I have gone back in my mind and I think recreated. I know what defense we ran. I think we ran a 3-4 variation. Okay. In high school, I like I knew nothing. I played defensive end when I was a freshman or sophomore, and I knew nothing about anything, why I was doing anything. I didn't understand spilling. I knew nothing. I knew what I was supposed to do, and that was it. I played linebacker for a little bit. I knew nothing. I played nose guard my senior year, and I knew cut knees because I was 160 pounds and I was playing at the highest level in the state of Georgia. And, I was going against linemen that were going to UGA and South Carolina and Georgia Tech, and I didn't have a chance. I'm cutting knees, hoping they fall over me. I had no idea what was going on behind me. I knew nothing about that. I was a stupid football player. I started to understand a little bit more when I went to college, but not really. And that I didn't understand anything. In fact, I still have pain in my upper back from a cracked vertebrae from when I didn't understand what squeezing a down block meant. And so they told the offensive guard, I was a freshman in spring training going into my sophomore year, I want to say. And they told the offensive guard, if he does that again, because I was supposed to squeeze down, I was supposed to be showing them, I was supposed to be the scout team guy, and their guy squeezes down. And I kept just going up the field because I don't know what the hell they're talking about. And they told the kid that I think the kid was going to LSU. No, Buck went to LSU. I don't remember. I think it was Brian Jones hit me. He was almost as big. And told him if he does that again, and we were in shells or whatever, and he freaking earholed me, and I didn't crack a vertebrae. I'm never sure if it cracked a vertebrae or if it messed up a ligament up there. I can still feel it sometimes because I didn't understand. I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
My coaches were pissed. So take that, get down to, I just learned what wrong arming is yesterday. Let me explain to you what I found out. That's kind of where you want to be at. So that's just be one day ahead. Don't be the genius. You can be the genius. Now the genius comes in when you explain it as if this is I just figured this out. It's the coolest thing. Look, here's what you do. The genius comes in when they say why, and then you explain to them why. The genius comes in when they don't get it and you find another approach and you get them there on the second or the third or the fourth approach, coaching cue, whatever. That's where you can be a genius. You don't have to prove to them you're smart when you're first installing it. They don't know. And that will really build buy-in because they will be like, this guy is teaching me stuff.
I think sometimes we get lost in how much we know and how long we've had to learn it. And even when we don't know something, it's always similar to something we do know, right? There's not that much new stuff in football. So if someone's teaching cover 3, I don't care if they roll a corner to the middle of the field, I can figure out a way to make it similar to what I know. And we forget about all that residual knowledge that we've collected over the years. A good friend of mine was working somewhere last year, and his DC is 40 years in the game or something on the defensive side of the ball. Could not meet the players where they were. Fired players every day because they weren't picking up what he was putting out there, and had 38 blitzes by week 1. And even this guy, who I've kind of had him under my wing for quite some time and helped him learn ball, he was like, dude, I don't even really know what we're doing sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a coach.
Yeah.
And so you kind of forget, I think, there as well, as you're just because your coach is a coach got a whistle doesn't mean he wasn't a stupid senior in high school 5 years ago before he went to college and got a teaching certificate, right?
I've had coaches, I've worked for coaches recently who I just go after a while, and sometimes it's their coaching ADD or something where they're just continually install something else or do something different, or there's just not good communication. And I finally come to a point where I'm just all right, I go back to, all right, let me compartmentalize. What do my guys need to do? I'll get that done. And I'll just, because I've been offensive coordinator, but I've always been a defensive position coach. And it's not one guy, it's multiple guys where I've just been I don't know what we're talking about anymore. So I'm just going to coach my position and coach it to the best I can, make suggestions where I can, and I'm not going to try to know everything that's going on over here. And I know people doing that with me as the offensive coordinator, because this stuff is in my brain and I do spend a lot of time with it. And it does. 24 rolls off my tongue like, it could be, it's nothing. But somebody else, that's power right, by the way. Okay. And it's power right to the running back. 34 is power right to the H-back. So 14 is power right with quarterback. 14 read is power read. So all of these things mean that all of that stuff to me, it's like when I can signal if I'm talking to you about the 4-2-5 defense, I will be signaling as I'm talking about them. We're doing over front, cover three. Okay. We're going to run, double strong bullets and all that sort of stuff. And it's just, that's all built into me. So like I've had coaches when I had as a head coach and I had a defensive coordinator call who was calling our defense, and he was running our 4-2-5 defense. But I remember I had no intention of calling the defense. I had not called the defense in a couple of years, in 3 or 4 years. And we were at a scrimmage and he was getting frustrated after it was a jamboree. So we were playing multiple teams. And so after the first one, he said, "Can you just call the defense for the next session so that I can just see it?" And I was like, okay, I have not done this I have not stood on the sidelines and called this defense. And I just it's there.
Yeah.
I forget that. And I forget that with coaches that I'm working with, that this stuff, and I do it in our Chalk Talk Q&As. Somebody who's a member talking to a Con Chase, talking to a Bill Weiss, talking to these coaches who have been members for a decade or more. Bill just crossed over his 10-year anniversary. Is talking to those guys. They know all this stuff and they do our game film analysis and they've heard all this stuff compared to talking to somebody who just joined yesterday. And sometimes I go, they use the right words, especially people who listen to the podcast and they sign up and they use all the right words. But I'm like, they don't know how all those words go together yet. That's what we do. And that's fine. But I forget that sometimes. And I'll start talking and I'm like, I got to get back to where this coach is at. And not talk like I'm, a genius.
I think that's
I talk like I'm saying, that's me with the simplest stuff that I can come up with, but it still comes out like at this wrong level.
Yeah. And we got to remember that's every aspect of this job. Like it's not just the kids learning the playbook. It's everything. It's how to act. What is it like? I can't remember the coach's name and you'll be able to tell me, but there was a coach that used to teach his kids how to put on their socks the right way.
John
right?
Wooden.
Like who?
John Wooden.
John Wooden. There you go. I thank you. I would have never remembered that. But look at it.
Yeah. On the stamps, baby.
But you gotta literally meet them where they are on every little thing. There are kids out there. I remember Little Giants, right? And it's like, what's this cup for? And he puts it on his face. Like,
yep.
That sounds stupid, but.
Well, and coaches joke about it all the time. Oh, the middle school kids are all going to come out with their knee pads on their butt pad and all this sort of stuff. That's your job.
Literally your job.
Get in the locker room.
You're laughing at
show them how to do all this stuff so they don't do that, because that's where your middle school kids are at. Yep. My varsity players, that's not where they're at, because if there's 27 of them in that locker room, 25 or 26 of them have done this and probably done this a lot. So if there's one guy who's new, they'll take care of it. That's where they're at. Your middle school guys, that's not where they're at. Yeah, get in the locker room and show them how to put all this stuff on. So the last thing we'll do real quick.
Yeah, let's do the player's creed.
Player creed. So this is just where you program wide, you establish your values, the things that are most important to you. And so in the player creed, something I got from Rick Stewart and from and also from Randy Jackson. Randy Jackson's book Culture Meets Strategy. Rick Stewart's at allaccesscoaching.net or .com. And both of those guys had a kind of the player creed idea came from Rick, and then Culture Meets Strategy does a 7-day thing, attached it to days. And so this just lays out the things that are going to be important to you. And it's I think that you start to create buy-in with this by just laying out this is exactly who we are. So now it's that component of take the speech that this is the one that I think is take the speech that every football coach has heard. So if you were in our situation in 2021 and the head coach is up there talking and he's saying the same things that the last three coaches over the last 3 years said, take that speech, boil it down to, I use 5 because Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I think Randy Jackson used 7. Boil it down to the things that are important, the most important things. So again, we're simplifying it. These are the 5 things that we're going to do. Mine are, and by the way, the kids, part of the buy-in with this is the kids get to have a say in the final version of this. But mine are never let anybody down, work together, no one gets left behind, expect adversity, which I think is maybe the most important one, and have fun. Because at the end of the day, we need that reminder of this game. And my buddy's coaching Little League Baseball, 8-year-olds, right? 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds. And there's a lot of parents who've forgotten the have fun part, right?
Yeah.
That's the fun of Little League Baseball is they think that this isn't a game. It's definitely a game. So anyway, and then you just, now you use those instead of giving the one speech or giving random speeches, you now have 5 things and you can stress one. I like to, give a little short talk about the one that is today. So like it's, if expect adversity is attached to Thursdays, every Thursday we're at the beginning of practice, it's gonna be short. It's gonna be 30 seconds, a minute, but it's gonna be something about expecting adversity. What does this mean? What could happen? What have we seen before? Give them real world examples. I would like to go in, for example, of on a Thursday, I would say, hey, remember what happened to, and I would usually bring it up on like Monday in our Monday meeting. Y'all remember what happened to Dallas in the Sunday night game, like, and how they did this and did that, and like that's what expect adversity means. And like either it's an example where they clearly didn't expect adversity or where they did expect adversity and overcame it.
Right.
And so you find little stories that you can tell, and you bring those real life stories that they saw into it. And so what that becomes is you now have 5 talking points that you are going to talk about all year long. And so it's not one speech trying to get buy-in. It is these are the 5 values of our program. I attached it to everything. You couldn't get your helmet and your shoulder pads until you could recite those 5 player creeds to me. Then I would issue your helmet and your shoulder pads. Until you could say that on your own, no help, you don't get helmet and shoulder pads. So go back, memorize it, come back. Every on Monday, the beginning of practice, we broke on whatever Monday was attached to. At the end of practice, we broke on what Tuesday's attached to. We started Tuesday practice with whatever Tuesday's attached to. Start with a little story. Break every huddle. There's no 1, 2, 3 family. There's no 1, 2, 3. Or whatever we are. Colonials, Raiders, 1, 2, 3 Raider football. Which is weird because that's what they did at the end of the Lord's Prayer. That freaks you out. That was like a tradition. That's cool. Yeah, you get to the end of it. Amen. 1, 2, 3 Raider football, and you're just like, what? It's like we didn't know that. We didn't know that was what they always did, but that's what they always did. And it just kind of breaks you out of that real quick.
For sure.
But those that gives you the 5 talking points that you're now going to build your buy-in around. This is who we are, and that's going to be your identity as far as the non-X's and O's stuff.
I like it. I've utilized and cannibalized your program manual to build my own stuff. So I have seen them and made them mine, which is, I guess just naturally that happened. I didn't know really how you made yours, and it should be whatever you were prioritizing it. But it goes back to meet
It's
your
the same thing.
program where it is, right? Like,
Yeah.
My 5 may not be what my first head coaching job
Exactly.
needs. They may need 5 completely different ones.
I took the 5 that where is it? I took the 5 that Rick had, and I didn't keep them all. And I took the 7. So Culture Defeat Strategy has the 7 lessons, and we had to do a podcast with Randy, Randy Jackson from back in the COVID days, because he was sitting in his backyard in the middle of the day, because we all were. Right. 7 lessons on leadership from a Texas high school football coach. It's a good book. I really mainly took that the 7 things. So you had like, it's on the cover. It's energy, competition, toughness, family, discipline, finish, payday. So I took a version of some of that stuff, and and then, like I said, the first thing that you do is, I didn't take it to the whole team. I took it to our leadership group, which is the squad leaders. Again, something I got from Rick Stewart, and said, here's what I'm going to present to the team. What do you guys think? And we went over each one, and I would say, does this sound right? Does it sound like something that matters to you? Does it sound like something we should be investing time in? Is there something more important? I would tell them, we're gonna chant this. We're gonna break down on it. So does it sound like something we could do a breakdown on? And they would kind of like test out different ways of saying it. Because you don't want that awkward breakdown that just sounds weird, sure, and everybody's stumbling over.
It's too many syllables.
It's got to like hit. Yeah. So there we go. That's how we use that tool.
I love it. Sweet. Well, Joe, I think we checked all the boxes for the evening. Real quick, just want to remind you guys, if you have someone that's struggling in this part of coaching, maybe they're taking over a program. I'm thinking of right now, literally one coach who is an acquaintance of mine, and I don't know if he listens to our show or not. And I'm going to send this episode to him, because it's very important to me that he doesn't go into this turnaround a program job using the entire Bixby system, because I know that that's what he has in his blood too. He spent many years there, and he's going to try to go do everything that Bixby does at this other school, and it won't work, right? You're going to spin your wheels. You're going to all barrels blazing at once, and then you're left with nothing. And now you're looking for a new job because you couldn't turn it around. So if you have someone that's in a situation like that, send them this episode. Refer listeners to the podcast. That's what's going to, well, number one, it just helps everybody in your coaching network, right? It's going to help them learn whatever lessons you're learning here from the podcast. Talking about tonight, we talked about building team buy-in, the SCS system, or the Simplify, Celebrate, and Sharpen. We talked about staying one day ahead, so teaching football like you're the teacher just learning it the night before, or go different. Think about the dad who's got to do the homework with the kid of some class you haven't had in 35 years, right? Like, stay one day ahead. And then last, we talked about the player's creed, which is just your way of emphasizing whatever it is that you prioritize, meet your program where it is, and build you a player's creed. Last week, we talked about not having enough players to win and how you can kind of eventually grow your program, get where you need to be. Next week, we're going to talk about our special teams aren't special and all the ways that we're going to correct that. Let's pay the bills one more time here, Joe.
Yeah, if you are like many of the coaches that I've worked with, over 10,000 coaches that I've worked with, they're making a lot of the same mistakes. Kind of some of the things we've talked about here today. Overcomplicating football. They're running a stack of plays that doesn't have any reason or thought behind it. They're just calling front stunts, blitzes, and coverages from the seat of their pants on defense. And every single one of those coaches, once we got into working with them, or many of those coaches, once we get a real defensive system in place, everything changes. The players play faster. The coaches have more confidence. They start winning more football games. Just as a side note on that, I always get the question of how do we tackle better? And I say this over and over again. Very, very few of our platinum clients who send in game film analysis after, say, week 5 or 6, very few of them do I see having tackling problems. And it's not because of any drills that we have. Tackling is usually not fixed by drills. It's in your system. It is literally in your system. And we have the solutions in place for that, and how to get there, how to get from where you are at now to where you need to be. And so I put together a free guide that is called What You Need to Know to Build Your Ultimate Defensive Football Coaching System. And inside that guide, you're going to get the blueprint for building a defensive system that works so you can simplify your playbook, get your players to buy in, and take control of the game. So go download that free copy right now at JoeDanielFootball.com to take the guesswork out of coaching, build your ultimate defensive system, and turn your football program around this season. Again, JoeDanielFootball.com/system.
Also, one last time, I'm going to talk about athleticspeedmovement.com. Look, the bluff is that your kids aren't as fast as they can be, and we can help you get them there. 12-week program, 2 times a week, 20 minutes a day in the off season. There is an in-season program. We're going to shrink it down even from that to help your kids stay fast. I want to remind you that when you go have to worry about strength and speed and all these things, strength, it takes something around, 10 days, 12 days for you to start losing your max strength. You've got to go in and tune it up. 3 days on your top speed, and you start to lose your top speed. So these are things you need to be working in season. You can't stop doing speed training just because you're in season. And we're going to give you a program that can do that. athleticspeedmovement.com. Jump over there and get Del Basquet's 47 years of experience and his highly evolved program from being the very first speed coach in the NFL to today. He's still writing programs and putting out new content, writing articles, traveling all over the nation to install his stuff. athleticspeedmovement.com. Social media. I'm at Coach Chambo OK on Twitter/X. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. Remind you about my Patreon, patreon.com/chamberlainfootballconsulting, where you can do all the auxiliary things that coaches need. Articles, graphics, anything you need to celebrate your team. I can help you set up social media, recruiting, etc., etc., etc. Jump over there, patreon.com/chamberlainfootballconsulting. Joe, where are you, sir?
You can find me at Joe Daniel Football and find Joe Daniel Football at Joe Daniel Football on Instagram, on TikTok at Joe Daniel Football, on Facebook, facebook.com/Joe Daniel Football, YouTube, JoeDanielFootball.com/YouTube, where you can watch the podcast. They drop every few days after, so the podcasts come out in audio on Thursdays, but you can watch it starting on the following Tuesday. And what I missed, Twitter at Football Info or X at Football Info, and of course, JoeDanielFootball.com.
Perfect. Podcast is at the FBCP on Twitter. If this is your first time listening to the Football Coaching Podcast, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can find us on your favorite podcatcher, especially Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You've been listening for a while. We're looking for reviews. We want those 5-star reviews. We want to spread the word, and the 5-star review is the best way you can help us do that, except for sending it directly to your coaches in your network. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Coaching Podcast. Remember, coach simple, play fast, win.